All right, we're live. All right, we're good. We are on week 6, I was told to say, of DNA in the House of Prayer. And I'm Matt, and most of you know me. But I get to share, and I'm really excited about it. I shared a few months ago with another set of our young interns on overview of the Sermon on the Mount. And so over the next couple weeks, tonight will be one of them. I know Jim plans on hitting a little bit tomorrow night, but also next week, I think Zach's going to be speaking on the Sermon on the Mount. And for those of you who have either been in House of Prayer culture, or maybe haven't been in House of Prayer culture very long, so 3 of the foundational teachings that you'll hear over and over and over again, because repetition is both the mother of learning, and that's how we change. It's how we transform. It's being able to hear it and reenact it and put the truth in us. And so those 3 things are intimacy. You'll hear all about intimacy, understanding this. Well, I know one of the things in the next few weeks is the Song of Solomon, but understanding intimacy, that God absolutely is crazy about you, who you are, and his intention has always been by design about that relationship, about the intimate relationship, because that is the foundation for everything else that comes after that. The next building block in that, or I would call it a building block, it doesn't have to be in that order, would be the Sermon on the Mount lifestyle, or the Forerunner lifestyle. I heard John the Baptist lifestyle, calling out or foretelling of the coming of Jesus. And so that Forerunner lifestyle is based on the Sermon on the Mount. And then the last one would be urgency or eschatology, understanding what that intention is. So intimacy, the foundation of it all. How do we live in response to a God who loves us so extravagantly? And then unto the end of the age. What is the unto for us that we're preparing for? We're preparing our hearts for both now, but also to be not just survivors, but those who embody the heart and fragrance of Jesus Christ at the end of the age. All right? So that's where, just kind of an overview, I think, of where everything's going. And as I know, Jim and Zach are teaching, and they've invited me to share on this, and so I'm privileged to do it. So we're going to talk a little bit. We've got a lot of notes. Please don't be freaked out. I will not get anywhere near through most of these notes, but I want you to have them, because I want you to be able to take them home, pour through them, underline them, find nuggets of truth, things that God speaks to you in them, and utilize this. These are not all. So some of these things are things God spoke to my heart as I was doing it. But a lot of them, I ripped them off. I ripped them off from guys like Billy Humphrey, who wrote The Culture of the Kingdom. And if you haven't got that book, you can write that down. The book, The Culture of the Kingdom by Billy Humphrey. Excellent book on the Sermon on the Mount. There's other ones out there too. That's an excellent one. And other teachings as well. So let's look at this, starting at the top. The way that Christ implements his kingdom is in power through the value system of the kingdom of Christ. When we look at the Sermon on the Mount, a lot of times you'll hear, immediately, people talk about, well, this is, because it talks about different things in our life or lifestyle, they immediately go to lifestyle modification. They immediately go to, well, these are the things that God wants us to do, so we're going to adhere to these list of values or rules or Jesus' teachings, and we're gonna implement these things in our lives, and that's gonna how we fulfill the culture of the kingdom. But Jesus is like, no, that's not what this is about. He's giving us insight. Just know that when we look at Matthew 5, 6, and 7, which is like this nutshell of really like a power packed with so many things that Jesus wanted to show us about his kingdom, that when we look at it, that he's saying, I don't want you to put on I'm going and making my list of do's and don'ts right now. Like, I want you to see something. Put down your list, put down your pen, put down these things in an example of that. Not making our list of things that we're going to go do. But he's saying, I want you to see something. I want to show you something. I'm opening up a window for you to see past where you are and into my kingdom, the value system of the kingdom of heaven. If he could open up a window and show us, this is what heaven is like, this is what my kingdom is like, this is what I love, this is what I hate, these are the things that I've built my kingdom on, and I want you to see them. Why? Because you're a part of this kingdom. You are a citizen of the kingdom of you are a son, you are a daughter, that you have inheritance in the kingdom of heaven. So this is what he wants us to see. So as we approach this Sermon on the Mount, as we approach these 3 chapters, Jesus is saying to this, he says, I want you to see something. I want you to peer into the corridors of heaven and understand what the heartbeat of heaven looks like. And that's what he's teaching us in this. And if we see it with that lens, I believe we get a lot more out of it, because then we're going to go, this is really what you love. This is really what you want. This is really what you're passionate about. And I want to be passionate about that because I see what you've done. I see who you are. I've seen the unveiling, and now I can enter in and I can be part of that. That's how we approach it. The Sermon on the Mount, and I should have said, is like the constitution of the kingdom of heaven. This is exciting for us because it speaks of where we come from. I should say from where we come, and more importantly, where we are going. It speaks of our destiny. The blessings and promises contained in this passage are like the Bill of Rights of the kingdom of heaven. As we give our lives to the pursuit of God and the value system of heaven, we are given right and access to the authority and benefits of his kingdom. Now, I know that's a mouthful, but think of it like this. That he's saying this is the Constitution. This is what heaven is like. I'm giving you, I'm spelling it out for you, what I love and what I hate, what my kingdom is all about. Now, the Bill of Rights are the things that we are now given access to as a right of the citizen of the kingdom of heaven because of what he has set up. He says he set up his kingdom. There's another teaching that I do called Divine Partnership, and I love Corey Russell says this. He says the kingdom of heaven is set up that he would do everything in partnership with his people. That he does nothing without partnership with his people. Amen. God does nothing without partnership from his people. That's how he's intended it. And so this is part of that citizenship. This is part of that place of access. And what he's doing here is he's saying, I want to show you and I want to release access, because this is not about saddling you with the ideas or a list of rules or a list of things that you have to adhere to. That he's giving us insight into something that we can partner with him in, because we're never called to do something without him or apart from him. Sometimes we think, man, we got to go get filled up, and then as soon as we get filled up, we're going to go take it, and we're going to go do the work of God. He's like, I never intended that. It's never been our relationship. Never would have been the intention that I have for you. It's always been about you coming and rooting yourself in me and doing more warfare. Jason Upton says this, I love it. He says, I'm learning to do more warfare from the Father's house. Because there's something beautiful when we get that place of we're not going to a fill-up station, we're going to a place of dwelling. And as we come to a place of dwelling, we are both more effective and we are both more fragrant with the heart of Jesus. And then we're more effective because we're remaining, not because we're getting our fill up and moving into our own. Well, we're going to take it into our own hands now, Jesus, right? We don't say that, but a lot of times we act that way. Okay, the present future kingdom, Roman numeral 1. Matthew 6, verse 10. You guys know this because it's part of the Lord's Prayer. Your kingdom come, your will be done. I love this reality when he talks about on earth as it is in heaven. Because he's saying, this is my intention. This is my intention. Jesus prophesied and taught us to pray a present future reality. It was his intercession partnering with the heart of the Father that released the will of the Father. Jesus' earthly ministry was both a fulfillment of this and a prophetic statement of what is coming. So look at it like this. It's kind of like a telescope. We're standing here, so this is my position, but with eyesight through a telescope, I'm seeing something coming, or seeing something from much farther ahead, right? So it's like I call it, or somebody has referred to it as a telescopic understanding of prophecy, or the telescopic understanding of proclamation. Jesus is proclaiming something here when he says, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. He's speaking of a present reality, because where's his kingdom right now? It's in us. His kingdom is built in the hearts of men. But he's speaking of something bigger, and he both simultaneously speaking of the present reality of his kingdom built in the hearts of men, but he's speaking of the physical reality of the kingdom that's coming down to earth that we are a part of, that is our citizenship. But how many know that our destination is not heaven? We got that? We already got that? Destination is not heaven. Our destination is earth. What? I thought we were going to be caught up in our destination is earth, and here's why. And I know that eschatology will go a little bit more of this, but our destination is earth because he is saying, I'm creating a new heaven and a new earth. And so what he's creating and what he's building, those four walls, those, that are coming down, it talks about in Revelation, they're coming to build on the earth. That's not a metaphor. That's a reality that we get to be a part of. We're going to rule, we're going to reign with him. And the cool thing is what we do in this age, it actually matters, and it's stored up, and it's built. We're building that heart, we're building that character, we're building that connection with the kingdom that we are already now a part of, to be able to fulfill our destiny for what we're supposed to do in the age to come. This counts now for them. Isn't that cool? So what we're doing now, a lot of times we're thinking, well, we want to have that good character, we want to do that because we just want to be able to, for this age. If we can see that we are not living for this age, does it benefit us in this age? Absolutely. But we are not living for this age. We're living for reality of an age to come. And if we can see it that way, it's like when it says that Abraham, he was building or looking for a kingdom not built by human hands, but whose builder and maker was God. He had a vision beyond this age, and he was peering through that telescope to the age to come, knowing, does it benefit me now? Absolutely. But this is not my reality. I am building up this account, or building up this rapport, and building up this understanding of my citizenship in the kingdom of heaven for the age to come. That's the present future reality. 2 Peter 3:12 says this, since all these things are thus to be dissolved, what sort of people ought you to be in lives of holiness and godliness, waiting for and hastening the coming of the day of God. I threw this in here because it's one of my favorite scriptures. It's like there's something cool about this, and I can't explain it. There's no science behind it. I don't even have a good theology to explain it to you, but there's something beautiful that the Word says, that if we enter into this reality, if we enter into this invitation, I should say, of coming into connection with the value system, with the heart, with the passion of a man who has built a kingdom for us. There's something that happens. He says, not only will you live in holiness and godliness, but we're waiting for and we hasten the coming of the day of the Lord. We can actually speed up the return of the Lord by our godliness and by our connection and value system with this kingdom. Now, don't ask me how that works when the Q&A time comes. I don't know. I don't have any clue. Ask Jim. Jim at hopsack.com. Send questions there. But I love that because, you know why? Because it ignites my heart. It ignites my heart that I'm not a passive bystander watching. He says, I've invited you into the process. I've been thinking of it like this, that the kingdom of heaven, there's like a pentagon of the kingdom of heaven. And he says, I no longer call you servants, but I called you friends because I want you to come and see what I'm doing. And he's saying, I'm inviting you into the pentagon of heaven. Those things that I am designing and I am implementing on the earth, I'm bringing you into it so that you can see it, because when you see it, then you understand my heart and you can speak into it and you can come into agreement with what I'm doing. And the kingdom of heaven always operates in agreement and partnership. It just does. Look at it. Historically, he did it through Daniel. When Daniel saw the writings and said, the prophecy said there would be this many days and then the freedom of Israel will come. But what did he do? He didn't go, well, it said it, so I'm just going to wait back and watch the fireworks. He said, no, I am going to enter into it. We're going to call a fast. We're going to enter into this because I'm going to partner with what God said. So as we partner with what God says, we're partnering with his kingdom. And there's something, it activates our heart. So then it becomes more than us doing the line items of what we believe he said to us to do. And we're saying, God, we know that you've invited us into something deeper. We're coming into agreement with your heart. Then the other things don't become burdensome. You ever wonder why people go, man, I've spent serving God for this many years and I'm just burnt out. I've been trying, I've been in ministry or I've been doing God's work and I just feel like and I've been there, even recently, to a point where it's like I realize there's things that in our own humanness and as a guy, we don't want to take on ourselves, and so that which was started in the spirit, we try to implement in the flesh. And God says, I never meant for you to move out from under this covering and go try to do that. And when you do, we think we're being godly, but in that process, we're moving outside of that covering, we're taking the flesh, and it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. He says, if you remain in me, that's sustainable. I can sustain that. So that's our lifestyle in that. I won't read those last couple there. Let's go to page, it might be on page 2. We need to approach the Sermon on the Mount with an eternal mindset. It's not just a great set of proverbs and ideas to live by, or a list of do's and don'ts that will enrich our natural lives. It does do that, the same as eating a balanced, healthy diet enriches the physical body. But this lifestyle holds much more for us than that. It is the connection point between our lives in this age and God's promise in the age to come. All right, kingdom at work. This is not a passive, many paths teaching like those from other sages or teachers of wisdom. Living in this way does violence and brings sword in the way we are viewed by the world. A lot of people would equate, a lot of Jesus' teachings with a lot of other teachers. Well, if you look at it, he's bringing a sword. He says, no, he's bringing something different, because he's saying if you partner with my kingdom, you actually have to come into partnership with me. And that means in partnership with me means you're not in partnership with the other things. It's not many paths. There's one way. And as we come into that place of saying, okay, Jesus, I'm not just adhering to your teaching, because I could adhere to somebody's teachings and adhere to this teaching and pull some of this in and do this, right? And I could have this like poly, idea kind of situation in my life. And God said, no, I want you to exclusively partner with the heart and the value system in the kingdom of heaven. When you do, it's actually going to bring a sword, both in our lives as he comes and he cuts to the quick, between sin, righteousness, and judgment. When it comes to things that are anti, or the spirit of God, or the spirit of the age that will come and try to bring a counterfeit. It's like as we partner with the kingdom of God, that it's actually going to do violence in us. It's actually going to do violence in the way we live, because it's a war with flesh. And as we do that, as we enter into that, he says, I'm going to take that on, but it's coming into partnership with them. So again, we're not doing it on our own will. We're coming under his leadership. We're coming under his perfect leadership to do that. Let's look. Let's skip down to access to kingdom citizenship. If you have any questions on other stuff, we can ask, but I want to move. Let's see, how much time do I have? Okay. Access of kingdom citizenship. I love this. We're going to look at the Beatitudes, Matthew 5. You'll see a list of what has historically been called the Beatitudes. And this passage, for me, I love seeing it because it contains keys of access. Again, don't look at it in a way that's saying, if you do this, then this happens. If you do this, look at it from the value system standpoint. We're looking at it through this lens of this is who he's saying is blessed. This is who he's saying is in connection and with the heartbeat of heaven. These things. The passage contains keys of access, keys and promises. Let's look at that first one in Matthew 5:3. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is what? Is the kingdom of heaven. Now let's look at these. Think of them now not as figurative. There's a literal application here that I think he wants us to see and get. Number 2, mourners, those who mourn. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Put a pin on that one, because we're going to talk about that in a minute, because there's something that was revelatory for me, understanding about meekness. Those who hunger and thirst after righteousness, they will be satisfied, they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Mercy will be shown to them. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. There's another one there we talk about. I love this. The peacemakers, for they will be called sons of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for again, the kingdom of heaven is their reward. And blessed are those who are reviled, for they have great reward in heaven. So let's look at a couple of these. I don't know if you can see a theme here, but he's saying, listen, a lot of times we think, well, we just gotta do this and be holy, because that's God called us to do it, and we're gonna buckle down and we're gonna make this thing happen. And he's saying, no, I actually have a system of reward. I actually want you to understand that there's reward, both temporal temporally. God will reward us in the temporal, but there's great eternal reward being stacked up for those who say, God, I get this. I'm seeing what you're putting out there. I'm seeing what you're showing me. When you're lowering the veil and allowing my eyes to see, I'm understanding who you are. I'm understanding what you love. I'm understanding what you hate. I'm understanding what you desire of me. Now it goes to a deeper value than you've given me a list of things to do, but it goes to a deeper value. I understand the heartbeat of heaven. And now, as I'm doing it, I see that now the kingdom of heaven offers a reward system. He says, I really want to reward you. I really want to give you access to things. And as you come into partnership with these areas of your life, you're going to get access to these things eternally. But how many know that eternity, to some degree, can begin now? That God actually wants to take the lid off of our experience now and us begin to operate as kingdom ambassadors and kingdom partners right now, right? It's what we're doing as we're pursuing this. Those of you who are here, you're hungry and thirsting after righteousness. It's like he's saying, I'm going to fill you. He's going to fill your heart. He's going to fill your mind now. There's going to be an eternal satisfaction. There's something that's coming that's even to a greater measure than we could ever ask or think. So those things where it says, blessed are those, or blessed are the poor in spirit, there's the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who are mourn, they're going to be comforted. Blessed are those who are meek. Let's look at that one meekness for a minute. It's on, I'm going to skip a couple pages here. Number 3, I think, or something like that, around page 6, somewhere around there. Meekness is probably one of the most, how many would agree, it's probably one of the most misunderstood characters in this. People equate meekness with weakness, right? We always we think, man, if we're going to be meek, that means we're mousy, or that we're there's no power in it, that we're robbed of power in it, that we have to just take a backseat to everything. And it could not be more opposite. Meekness is power under restraint. If we can understand that meekness is a power of God in our lives under restraint, meaning by His Spirit we're sitting or keeping it as He's called us to in our hearts, to be able to for focus. It's really a focused power that He has for us. Meekness, I believe, I don't want to repeat myself here, but it's understood. Although it does involve humbling ourselves and turning the other cheek, meekness is one of the boldest and wisest realities of God's kingdom, and it is rewarded with a great level of authority in the age to come. I believe when it says that the meek will inherit the earth, again, He's not speaking in metaphors here. That I believe there's actual real estate that's going to be given charge of in the age to come. Some of you are going to go, whoa, wait a minute, what does that mean? Why would God want to do that? Zach is a realtor, so he understands, how God wants to give real estate. But no, seriously, that I believe that there are places, because how many know that in the age to come, as we partner with Him, that He's going to give authority and rule over lands, kingdoms, places, and regions to those who have what? Who is His leadership team? Those who have come into agreement with us. Those who have said, I want to enter into meekness to such a degree, Jesus. And my ulterior motive is, there's a reward system, and I want to enter into your reward system. How many know that it's okay for you to have an ulterior motive? He's actually given it to you. He's like, I didn't expect you to just be meek for the sake of being meek. He's like, I'm showing you my reward system. I want you to rule and reign with me. My ulterior motive is, I want to partner with Him, and I want to come into that place of authority with Him. That's not, we have to understand, if we want it now, yeah, then that's a bad idea. But if we want it then, that's not, you're not being selfish, you're not being self-serving, because here, when we see Him and when we see who He is and His value system as the litmus test and as our goal and our reward, then we go, God, and you said that I would get to rule and reign with you, and maybe I get to oversee or be the oversight of North Africa. But wouldn't it be cool just to be able to go, just to be able to partner with Jesus and carry out His intentions upon the earth? So when He says that blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth, there's something about that place of entering into meekness that we get inheritance, because He's saying that is the quality that I want, and those who are going to rule and reign with me at the end of the age. Isn't that cool? Meekness, power, Number 6, they're hungering and thirsting for righteousness. We all have an appetite. I just skipped over to page 7. Hungering and thirsting for righteousness. We all have an appetite for something. Whatever hunger is fed, fostered, and satisfied over time will ultimately call the shots in our lives. Fleshly desires and otherwise. Psalm 42:7 says, "Deep calls unto deep at the roar of your waterfalls." There's something about as He's calling us. Again, it's an invitation. As we're invited into that place and we respond and say, "Yes, Jesus, I'm going to be hungry for you, like a man hungers for food, like the deer pants for the water, like my soul longs after." You know, we read the Psalms or we read the Word and we see those. There's such a power in those words where we go, "God, I want to see you as something that, or somebody that is like, if I don't have you, like I don't have sustenance for food, or I need water to live." That's like that same level of desperation and anticipation to know Him. Hungering and thirsting for righteousness because He wants to satisfy us. And I don't know about you, but in the age we're in right now, in the year that we're in right now, there is a war over our satisfaction, or over our comfort, or over our place of feeling peace or feeling it, right? I would propose this. We were just having this conversation a little bit ago. I would propose this. This is not happening to us. This is happening for us. Why? Because this is an opportunity for us and to look again into this and say, "God, if this is the value system of the kingdom, then I don't really, this is I love what Misty said, this is only a shadow. Yes. This is only our 70-year internship. This is only preparation. And as a microcosm of that, 2020 is what? Like 1/70th maybe of that whole, that internship. And so how many know that as God tests our hearts, and as He uses these circumstances to go, "Listen, you don't have to enter into the level of fear. You don't have to enter into the place of uncertainty. You don't have to walk in the place of anger." And I'm pointing back at me because I enter into what I think is pretty righteous indignation about some things. Or maybe it's not, right? Maybe it's not so righteous. Maybe it's just my form of righteousness, which the Bible describes as filthy rags. And He's saying, "I want you to enter into a different vision. See with a different lens, see with different eyes, that you're a citizen of the kingdom of heaven." And right now, that just like if I was a passport holder of the United States, and I am, and I was in any other nation of the earth, what does that afford me? I'm not a citizen of that kingdom, even though I've got to operate at the time and being there by natural laws and things. I'm not a citizen of that kingdom. I'm a citizen of this country, right? By natural means. I'm a citizen of this country, which affords me certain rights and certain liberties, certain protection worldwide, embassies, and things, and right as a citizen of the kingdom, the country of the United States. How much more if we can understand that we're citizens of the kingdom of heaven? You hold a passport to the kingdom of heaven, and you are exercising that. You have that right of access and that right of authority here. We're not waiting until we get there to exercise it. We're here with that same right and authority. So when Jesus said in Matthew 6:10 that your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven, it was that He was saying, "I want you to see something here, because you can begin to call forth the things that I have for you in the age to come, and begin to call it forth now. Begin to speak it upon the earth now." He has a place for us to begin to declare those truths of who He is, because it's no more true then than it is now. It's eternal truth. It's who He is. So as we call forth that and say, "Jesus, you are the one who loves peace, and you say, 'Blessed are the peacemakers.'" And so as we call forth and we say, "God, we're going to embody peace," we're actually doing war upon and coming into partnership with that kingdom, and bringing and speaking forth and fulfilling His word of seeing His kingdom born or not born, but established upon the earth. Does that go with you? Are we getting this?
Yes.
Some of it I'm not communicating really well, so sometimes in my mind, and I go, "Yeah, it was really good right here," but I'm just going to trust the Holy Spirit to land it in your heart. Okay. Good. But if we can get that picture, that is a poignant picture. If we can understand that our right as a citizen of the kingdom of heaven, that we can begin to call on that citizenship now. Because that's what he intended. That's why he gave it to us. That's why he revealed it to us. That revelation. Revelation is always invitation. Anything that's revealed to you is an invitation for you to come understand it, partner with it, and walk in it. So if it's being revealed, you're saying, man, God, you're showing me this thing. What do I do with it? He's saying it's an invitation for you to come in and walk in and come into that reality to a greater dimension. Good? All right. I'm going to skip around again because I think I'm at the end of my Apple Watch is dying. Okay, so I have a couple minutes, and then we'll do purity. Let's go to pure in heart. Again, I apologize for skipping around, but that's why I'm giving you all the notes, so you can go and just like pour over them, pray, and ask God for even greater revelation. And then take it. I love what Mike Bickle says. Take it, and if it's something that like is ministered to you, take it, make it your own, write your name on it, and go preach it. You know, because like, it's, you know, I always love he said, you know, my copyright is my right to copy. Like, take it, you know, because and I exercised that in doing this. You know, I just stole somebody else's stuff and actually going, God, you give me the revelation, put it all together and made it my own, and I'm preaching it, but really I stole it. I stole it. What was the stolen? What was the stolen thing? Slap around like you stole something from church or something like that. I don't know. There was this conference we were at, and it was like, run like you stole it from church or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, purity. Number, what is the number on your notes? 7, 6? 6. Got it. The heart posture of purity before the Lord is a key of access to greater revelation. The pure in heart will see him. I love this. When you read this and you see that, it's like God, again, when he reveals it to us and says it, the pure, blessed are the pure in heart, for they will what? They will see God. Here's my ulterior motive. I want to see him. What did Moses pray? He said, God, show me your glory. Let me see. There was like a hunger to go, God, I'm only seeing through that glass half darkly, but throughout history, you know, his saints have gone, God, I want to see you. I want to see you. And so there's something about when it says seeing is believing, or, you know, but we understand the concept of faith, but there's something beautiful when he reveals things to us, and the pure in heart will see God. So there's an understanding in this that for us to have greater vision of who he is, and greater vision of what he embodies and what his value system is being pure in heart. He's saying he's giving us keys of access. He's saying, if you come to me in purity of heart, I will give you greater vision. You want greater vision? You want to see me in a greater dimension? You want to see, you know, peer into heaven and understand more about who I am and about my kingdom? Come with a pure heart. Now, does that mean a perfect heart? No, it doesn't. It means we're coming with that, and under that guise of purity, say, God, I'm going to keep a clean heart before you. I want to come in humility and let you wash over my heart with the water of the Word, so that I can come into agreement with you, so that there's nothing blocking us in our relationship. And as he does, and as he comes and he brings a sword, that sword into our lives, we talked about that violence in our lives, that sword that comes and it divides and brings tumult to our flesh for the salvation of our spirit. And as he does that, he's saying, if you come into agreement with that heart of purity, and you come before me and say, God, I just want to have a pure heart before you. Purify my heart, make me clean. Let me be able to have short accounts with you. Let me be able to walk in step with the things that you love and the things that you hate, as I keep a pure heart unadulterated by those things that are not of his kingdom. He's saying, as you do that, I'm going to give you greater revelation. I'm going to begin to lift the veil. And I'm beginning to show you things. How many of us had that place you've gone, God, and you've just been obedient in an area of your life, or obedient to something, and as you do, it's opened up a new, greater place of revelation in your life? Anybody had that experience? I have. You know, all of a sudden, like, there's greater understanding in the areas. Like, all of a sudden, epiphany begins to happen. You understand more about. It's like things that you knew, right? Things that you go, I heard, but oh my gosh, I understand to a greater dimension than I ever did before, right? Because of that place, because we're coming into proximity. That proximity principle is so huge. If we, he invites us in, and as we go through the process of saying yes to that purification process, and yes to what he wants to do in our lives, and yes to his heartbeat for us, and we're saying, God, we're coming into sync with the heartbeat of heaven. And as we do that, as we come in proximity with him, he's opening up our eyes to greater revelation. Right?
Yes.
So I love this. The pure in heart will see God. That's my ulterior motive. I want to see him. I want to understand more about who he is. I want to understand more about his kingdom. I want greater revelation. And so with that in mind, I will enter into the process of purification. Because how many know the process of purification, there's heat on it. And when we feel the heat hurts, but the heat will not consume you. The heat will not consume you. Right? You will not die from it. not eternally anyway. There's heat on your life. You're saying, okay, God, bring the heat, because the heat will purify my heart. The heat will bring me into that place where I can now enter in and I can see with new eyes. I can see with new vision. I want to see him. All right. I'm going to land it here, and then we can talk a little bit. Peacemakers. Let's just talk about peacemakers. And even though everybody loves talking about being steadfast in persecution, we won't go there tonight. And I'll leave that for another time maybe. But peacemakers. Blessed are the peacemakers. Notice that it doesn't say blessed are the peacekeepers. Now, I'm not talking about peacekeeping around the world, like law enforcement and military presence. I'm talking about those, and I've been there because I'm one of those personalities that's like, hey, can't we all just get along? You know what I mean? Hey, can't we just bring it to the lowest common denominator of what you said and what you said, and that will be peace? How many know that's not the peace of the kingdom of God? He's saying, blessed are the peacemakers, not the peacekeepers. I believe, and this is my desire, and it juices me just to talk about this and say this, because I believe that God wants us to come to a place where we're so knit together with this value system of the kingdom of heaven that we walk into a room and by our very presence, peace just comes. Not because we did anything, except embodying the heart of Jesus Christ in a room or in a realm or in a social group of people where there is angst, and all of a sudden we walk into a room and we embody that place. We're actually manufacturing in our own body and our own and who we are the peace of the kingdom of heaven. Or he's manufacturing it through us. But he said, blessed are the peacemakers, those who come, and they can both, by their wisdom, by the wisdom of the kingdom of God, by our presence. I mean, have you ever been in that kind of a position? Anybody ever been in that kind of position where you walk into a place and you know that the peace of God was immediately imparted in a situation where I didn't know how that was going to resolve.
Yeah.
You ever been in that place? I've been in that place where I've watched something and go, man, I don't know how this could ever come to resolve. And with that place of just embodying the peace of God, whether it was me, sometimes it wasn't even me. Sometimes it was somebody else that was actually the agent, or maybe there was more than one person that was the agent. But the agent of peace becomes saying, I am going to so embody the heartbeat and the value system of the kingdom of heaven that as I walk into a place, I'm actually carrying with me that place that creates peace in a circumstance that's not there. I just think of Jesus in the boat, because how many remember that he said, greater things than these will they do to those who believe, right? So as we go, Jesus, you spoke peace to a storm. You stood in the middle of a boat, and in a place of tumult where there was fear all around, people are like, how are we going to solve this problem? And people were getting angry. Jesus, don't change. You hate us. Why do you hate us? It's like, easy. Peace, be still. What about that Spirit of God that's in us, where we walk into a room, or we walk into a circumstance, where we walk into the grocery store, where there's fear. Everybody, whether wherever we are on the mass thing, or it's like there's so much that it's like you just want that heart of compassion to go out and say, Jesus, there you want to bring that level of the playing field for Jesus to come and say, I love you and I want to bring peace into your life. That there's not anger, that there's not separation, that there's not this angst of I'm not sure about you and what you think and what I think and how and what are you judging me, or are we judging each other, or are you afraid of me and I'm not sure if I'm afraid of you? It's like that spirit that's been so soaked in this year, especially. But how many know it's just magnifying something that's already in the hearts of men? But Jesus is saying, I want you to come to a place in agreement with me where you come into a room and that there's like peace that is imparted because of my presence. And man, what both an amazing privilege and responsibility that we can have. That we can walk into a situation and we can walk confidently in who He is. And God, how do I bring peace in this? Jesus, what do you want to say right now? Peace, be still. Doesn't that excite you? I don't know about you, that excites me, because here's the thing about this, is there's something supernatural about, there's something that smells of heaven that we get to be a part of, that we get to consume, that we get to enter into, that we get to embody, that we get to access because of what He's told us and because of what He's giving us. And if we can see that and we can enter into it, then the rest of the stuff that He's that He's asking of us, or the things that have to change in our lives, it's not because we're going down a list and we're trying to change things about us to be able to conform to and be able to make this fit with the value systems. No, just come into agreement with me. This is about a man. It's never been about a thing. It's been always been a man, the man Christ Jesus. And if we come into agreement and intimate friendship with Him, these things are the fruit of that intimate friendship. Is that good? All right. So take this stuff home. And do we have time for Q&A, or did I go too long? Cut it off? All right.